Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to welcome you to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today, with us, Angel Rebo, CEO consultant, TV host, international public speaker, and president of the Wisdom for Kids Foundation, is going to be interviewing Luis Fernando Mises. Luis is a leadership consultant, yoga instructor, and meditation teacher, student of Austrian Economics, Curandero, and entrepreneur. Before starting with them, we want to remind you that Mindalia is a non-profit organization. Our mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness around the world, and you can help us. How? Subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment below this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that is going to benefit from the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, while we are live streaming, like right now, we want to remind you that we have the active chat, the screen that you're going to be seeing here on my side. Through there, you can enter your questions, interact with us. We just please ask you to follow the format, word question in caps, and the actual question in relation to the interview that we're going to be having here today. Also, we want to invite you to visit Mindalia Televisión in Spanish, Mindalia Televisao in Portuguese, where we are transmitting content from Monday to Friday, live streamings like the ones that you get to see here in Mindalia TV. And we also want to invite you to participate with your own content, with your own wisdom. For that, you can go to our website, and in the top, you're going to find a link that says Collaborate with Mindalia. That link is going to take you to a form that you can fill out for our technical team to contact you. You could be just like Luis, sharing valuable information through the different platforms of Mindalia. I'm not going to delay this any further. I'm going to leave you with Angel and Luis. They're going to be talking today about the spiritual elements of money. Guys, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Mirna. What a pleasure to be introduced by you, and what a pleasure and blessing to have Luis with us today. Welcome to Mindalia TV, Luis.
Thank you so much, Angel. It's very amazing to be here with you today.
Excellent. So I wasn't really impressed by the introduction that Mirna made of you. There's so many ways that you can help people. Where does that, I would say, talent or gift to help people come from?
I guess it was like partially instilled in my parents. I grew up seeing all the time that they were helping. My dad was an engineer, entrepreneur, and they were always, my mom's very nurturing. So, like grew up with that. And then whenever I was searching for my own, I guess, purpose and way to create my contribution towards the world, during, incidentally, an ayahuasca ceremony, she showed me that she showed me two things, the homework, which is to be present with people and to empower others. So through those two means, that was what I needed to do to be able to increase the consciousness of the whole. So, I mean, ultimately, those are the two main things, where all this comes from.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. So you were in an ayahuasca ceremony. What's that exactly?
Well, ayahuasca is a shamanic ceremony. Well, I mean, ayahuasca is a plant. It's a root and the vine, and then the leaves, and then they get mashed and they make it into a tea that you drink, and it opens your third eye, and ultimately it releases DMT in your brain, which DMT is released when you are being born and when you die, in like really deep moments of meditation, and it's what connects you to the other realms. So ayahuasca ceremony with a shaman, I was there with, I don't know, another 20, 30 people, and everybody's dealing with their own stuff, and so in this specific ceremony, that was one of the things that I wanted to really get deeper and understanding on. So that's whenever she helped me dig deeper, because it's not like she just gives you the answers. You have to do the work, dig pretty deep, and face a lot of things that you may not want to face, that they may be painful, or like stuff that you have done to others. It's kind of like when people say the moment of judgment when you die, God judges. It's not necessarily the case. It's like the program that is this reality lets you see and feel everything that you've made others feel. So it's the way of closing the karmic loop, if you will. So anyway, like as you're doing all these ceremonies, you're clearing out all the karmic goop and seeing more, being able to understand more about yourself and the nature of reality and all that. So, I mean, that was one of the, I guess, more powerful things, like the parental coaching and several. I mean, I'm into shamanism too, so like, all those ceremonies and that.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating. I really appreciate you willing to share this, because it must be a very, very intimate moment in your life, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there's, other means to do that as well. I mean, ayahuasca is a mother spirit. I've also done San Pedro cactus, which is more like a grandfather energy, and psilocybin, which is more of a playful energy that, so I don't know if it's like, Maria Sabina, I used to call him just what it is. I haven't really encountered like an entity that like, I just feel guided through some, whatever it may be. So yeah, it's very intimate. I mean, like you go to the oldest parts of your brain that and then it releases a lot of trauma for a lot of people. And so, I mean, it's super powerful experience.
Wow, thank you. Again, thank you for sharing. And, when you were being introduced, as I said before, you've been, you're doing many different things, and you actually added even more when we were now talking. So what would you say is your number one purpose in life? I don't know if that's something that you're looking for, or you already know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's to empower others, myself and others. So, what does that look like? A lot of time, and this is like a perfect segue for our title, our subject of the day. So ultimately, people, there's a lot of people that go through life hating Mondays, and they're like, oh gosh, I have to go to work. And, they're like, they don't hate Mondays, they hate their lives, and then like happy hour and Fridays and Saturdays are the only better parts of life. I mean, that's pretty like a sad existence. So where I come in, through guidance of a lot of people and entities, I help individuals find their purpose, or at least close to it. Like guide them in certain directions to where they can purge a lot of stuff, because nothing new can come in unless old stuff comes out. So I help them understand some things, and once they're able to find their purpose, then Monday mornings are like the most exciting days of the week, because you come back to the hustle that you enjoy so much. Like you find your purpose. And it's interesting because I also did, ceremony on San Pedro with like money, like the whole idea of like, wouldn't it be easier if like money didn't exist? Like if we didn't have to work to get stuff. And ultimately, that seems to be common theme when people feel disempowered, because even if money didn't exist, you would still have to eat somehow, you would still have to create shelter somehow. And I would much rather work on something that I like versus having to just survive, because if you have to make everything, like your house, your food, like all of the things that you need for life, I mean, your entire existence will be spent on that, and you will be like poor for the rest of your life. There is a great thing about division of labor, and how whenever you bring in your purpose, you're able to contribute into the world with what you do best, and then other people with what they do best, and then we can trade. And we don't necessarily have to barter, because I mean, if I sell apples and you make houses, you may not want 25,000 tons of apples for the house that you built for me. So to create a medium of exchange that is more, I guess, powerful and easier to use would be money. Now, one of the interesting things is people have all this baggage on the idea of money. And I think it's not that they necessarily hate money, but they dislike who issues money. Currency in itself, like historically, it's been kings and governments. Like if you go anywhere in the world, when you're trading on a government note. You don't really have access to free money, and not free, I don't mean like without cost. I mean, like liberated money, you know. So there's other means that, I mean, we can keep talking about that, but that's basically, when you ask what do you do, that's what I primarily do through various means.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep on going. I mean, I think it's fascinating because one of the areas that we typically, in Mindalia, we try to help people as much as possible. We try to help our audience with very actionable, ideas and concepts. So what you were saying was really, I think, it was hitting home for a lot of people. So, okay, so there's no, maybe we come to the conclusion that money is a necessary thing to have in order to exchange that value that everybody brings to the table. Is that something like that? Did I understand you well?
Oh, absolutely. It's there's some passage in the Bible that says the love of money is the root of all evil, and I completely disagree with it, because what's not to love about money? Money represents your skill that you've taken years to learn, the time that you take to build something, the energy. So money that you get out of work is basically an extension of yourself. What's not to love about that? So a lot of people say, well, it's not about money. It's really not. I mean, money is just a side effect of what you get when you create value for other people. So if I create value for you, you say, oh gosh, this is like amazing. I need to give something back to you. So the exchange of energy happens regardless. And again, like the idea of, for instance, dollars, like, it says Federal Reserve note. And like, if you just pull one out, like, this is the only thing that we're allowed to trade with. So the federal bank, the Federal Reserve, what they do is they inflate your money, so your money is worth less every year. Since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913 to today, it's been devaluated 98.5%. That's like crazy, like super, super insane. Now, let's see if I usually carry some actually free money. Gold, for instance. It's not that the price of gold goes up. It actually remains the same for 5,000 years. The point of it is that this cannot really be devaluated or inflated. It can be played with, depending on certain people, like as they move their investments. But the idea is that this is more sound money that you cannot really steal, like as if you're a government or a Federal Reserve Bank, central bank. So that's a very interesting thing. As we are creating value towards each other, if we were to trade with this, or maybe even Bitcoin, which is another currency that I think it's extremely on the side of goodness and spirituality of the good kind. Whenever we go buy groceries, $20 every year, you can buy less and less. But like, with Bitcoin and gold and all those items, like every year you can actually buy more and more and more. So it's an interesting thing how that works on the side of liberty and emancipation of humankind versus controlling people through government money.
Wow. Let me ask you something, because I guess you help people to better understand the concept of money. Is that right?
In some places, yes, sir, I do.
Okay, excellent. So what would you say is the number one like blind spot that people have about money?
Well, the idea that they don't care about money. They're like, oh, I don't care about money. It's not, or money is dirty, or money doesn't grow on trees. Like, there's a lot of lack mentality, first and foremost. And, people, as they're increasing their quality of life, they look for comfort first and foremost. And then they look for like maybe retirement. And I think like the primary idea is to focus on maximizing your income as you're young. Because by doing that, like when you're 60 years old, you don't have to be like popping your knuckles, because you're so anxious because you don't, like, you're about closing to retirement and you don't have any money. So like people don't know what money is. That's the first and most important thing. So what is money? Is that $50 bill that I showed you money? That's really not money. Like if we look at the history of, for instance, the dollars or any other government money for that matter, it comes from, you know, the manipulation of resources, which is ultimately the dislike of people and hate towards it. That's where it boils down to. So that's one thing. Another one is only like if somebody's rich, they you know, they did a lot of mishandling, or they, you know, stole it, or, you know, like the whole idea that you can only become wealthy if you do unethical things, and that's not necessarily true. Or another one like that, it's funny, like, you know, the whole idea that we had a couple of years ago about the 1%, how they're evil and all of that. In the United States, you have to make $300,000 a year to be part of the 1%. So somehow magically, after you hit $300,000, you become evil. You know, I mean, that's just preposterous. If you look at the world at large, if you make about $37,000 a year, you're the 1% of the world. Does that make you evil? So again, like, I mean, an amount of money that you generate doesn't equate whether you're good or bad, you know? So those are like certain things that we have to help people unlearn, to be able to bring in a lot of the abundance mentality, and especially like people that deal with you know, light workers and healers and all of that. They're always broke, and it's so like sad to see, because they're, you know, super nice people. Like, why are you always broke? Like on, you know, tantra, for instance, like the tantrikas, this is a tradition that's 5,000-6,000 years old. They say, you know, the purpose of life is for you to be in an effervescence of life. Like, you're supposed to be joyous. And I mean, tragedy happens. Tragedy is the background of life. I mean, that's unequivocal. It will always be there. But, you know, like exuberant lifestyle, like you're supposed to be happy and fulfilled and have like riches and all this stuff. So why do we keep ourselves down? You know, so that's another thing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to be in that position. Like, if you don't want to, that's fine. But putting others down because they have that or they want that, you know, that's pretty dysfunctional, I think. What do you think?
Thank you. Yeah, no, what I know is that there's a lot of people suffering from the lack of money, and there's a lot of people that are really looking forward, like the paycheck, in order to be able to live their lives with a certain level of comfort. And, you know, we get these messages all the time in Mindalia from people that are asking questions to our guests. So I would like to ask you a question. Is there such thing as a fast track, as a fast way to start embracing abundance, Luis?
I think it's a mentality. And I was talking about this actually with my little guy, 10 years old, and we were talking about how, you know, we need to focus on helping people that want to be helped instead of like trying to save people that don't want to be saved. So he says, well, what about like, I mean, and this is like, I'm going to tell you something that is probably like, it may sound pretty rough, but my dad always told me, surround yourself with losers and you're going to be a loser. Surround yourself with winners and you're going to be a winner. And my little guy's like, well, what if we can turn somebody into a winner? And I'm like, it's not about the amount of money that you have. That's not the case. It's the mentality. Do you want to do better in life? Do you want to be friends? Like when your little friends come over, do they help you clean up after you guys play and make a huge mess? You know, like look at those kinds of people that want you to be better and be with those people. It's not about necessarily like how much money you have in your bank account. It's like the abundance mentality starts here. How we can create value for one another. You know, like I think, who was it? Henry Ford. He's like, it's not how little I can give you for $1, but how much I can give you for $1 whenever we're exchanging value. Because I mean, ultimately, that's what it's all about. So, you know, from that to like the whole idea, another set of finding your purpose. So there are three main things where, you know, people generate income. The very first one is a job. Everybody hates their job. Last we were talking about, like, oh, gee, you know, just paycheck to paycheck. Like, we all have been there at some point. Then the second level is a career, where you prepare yourself. You go to college, you get yourself a nice education, you climb up the corporate ladder, and then you still look forward at 65 years old to retire and drink martinis on the beach, which is okay. Then the third one is the calling, where it doesn't matter. You can be like working 12-hour days and you're not tired. You go to sleep and you wake up and you want to do more. You're obsessed with it because it lights up your soul. And that is, I think, what I like to help people with, not just some mediocre life. Like, what do you want to do? And let's go explore that. And yeah, I mean, like, I have to do paperwork and there's things that you don't like doing. And then everybody goes through that. It's not that you just do the pretty cool stuff. I mean, we all have to do the human thing. We still have to eat and we still have to use the bathroom. So it's again like a mentality here, and what lights you up and create. Like, a lot of times when we're growing up and they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they, like, little kids tell you something, no, that's dumb, that's never going to happen, or whatever. Like, we're putting people down instead of trying to explore how we can help them do that.
What would you say is the number one thing that you like to help people with, Luis?
Gosh, like, I guess it really varies. I just get pretty ecstatic whenever I help people that want to be helped and that they are looking for, like, they're inspired to do something that they want to achieve. So I have proficiencies in several places. So whether it is marketing or I guess social media or entrepreneurship or certain things that are more of the right brain, brainstorming or creating plans or whatever it may be. Like, I'm certified yoga instructor too, so we can do that, or whatever, parenting, that's important, healing relationships, whatever it may be. Like, whenever we do coaching for our clients, and these are like a lot of the Forbes 100 best companies to work for, it seems like 75% of the people, they always focus on house stuff. Like, they are like, I feel so bad, but like, really where I have troubles is in the house. And we're like, that's normal. Most people do that. So let's work on how I can help you here. And then you're going to focus better at work. And then they do better. And then they excel and they're happy. So, wherever it may be that we can, that's what really matters, I guess.
And you explained to us before a little bit your spiritual path. And you also spoke about gold or even cryptocurrencies. Maybe you mentioned Bitcoin to be more like a spiritual kind of way of exchanging value. Did I understand that well?
Yes.
Why do you think so? Why do you think that cryptocurrency might be a more spiritual way to exchange value?
I mean, right off the bat, because it's not it's not centralized. It's not manipulated by one entity like government currencies. So it is an exchange that allows you to do that without being robbed as you're doing it, which is fantastic. So I mean, that in itself, I find it like the work of goodness. When this individual, like, I mean, just like to think about the mathematical equations that went into place and how it's used. I mean, like, just think, the internet first app is email. If you remember in the early 90s, like, we were so excited to get an email, right? And now you can, like, watch Netflix on your phone without even thinking about it. So, I mean, the progression of that now with Bitcoin and the blockchain, Bitcoin is the first app of the blockchain. Can you imagine what's going to happen in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? Who knows? So it has a lot of, like, it's already helped a lot of people. And if you think about the banking industry, it serves about 1.5 billion people on Earth. What happens to the other 6 billion people? That's a bunch of people. So anybody that can afford a smartphone anywhere in the world can trade through cryptocurrency for virtually free. That is serving the underserved. To me, that's the works of the Lord, if you will. Like, helping people that need help, that want help. You don't need to get like a passport or any other kind of government paperwork that allows you to have permission slip to trade. So it's just easy as long as you have that cheap smartphone, you can trade and it's fast. Like, I mean, I import kratom from Indonesia, and the guy that lives in Indonesia, I send him cryptocurrency. So, you know, if I was to send him a wire, it's going to be like $30, $40 or more. And here it's just, I don't know, 25, 50 cents. And, you know, I send him hundreds of dollars, and like he grows his business, and there's less barriers for trade, and more people get to benefit from it. So, I mean, it's amazing, I think.
So that's the reason why you said it's more like a spiritual way of exchanging value?
Yeah. And like, okay, so one of my friends was telling me, reminding me of something I said, like, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is not good just because of what I mentioned, but because it's a disruptive energy of the status quo, where it keeps people hostage, it keeps people slaves of one kind of currency, and to pay exorbitant amounts of taxes that a lot of people can't really afford to pay, or you know, like, I don't know if you've seen on television, like people getting killed because they were losing, like they were selling loose cigarettes. And so like all these crazy things that the state is doing to people that are not paying taxes. So this disruptive energy comes in and says, your realm is about to experience something different. You don't have to experience the oppression. You don't have to experience the theft. You don't have to experience slavery. This is like Prometheus bringing the fire of the gods into humans. Like, this is like, here it is. You're free. You don't have to use this corrupted system that only, you know, like every time that we participate in that, like, I mean, we send tax money to be like bombing people in the Middle East that we've never met. I mean, like all that stuff, like we're not participating on that when we choose this other side. So to me, that's a sign of goodness.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. You mentioned before like a passage in the Bible in which, you know, money was being compared to like was it like a bad thing?
Yeah.
In which content? Yeah, in which context? Excuse me. Is that used? Do you remember?
Yeah. It's well, if I can. It's Timothy 1:6 and 10. It says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. That's what it literally says. So, and I think that the idea of that is not because they're following their purpose. So this is kind of interesting. Happiness and money, if you search for them directly, you're going to end up in all of these dark holes. But if you instead search happiness through serving others, you know, like you're helping other people, and that brings you happiness and money on the side. Like, that's not your primary goal, because our primary goal should not necessarily be that. Our primary goal is to help one another, to be of service to one another, to add value to each other's lives. And as a side, it comes all of this. So that's, you know, a lot of people that just focus on the idea of just getting money because of whatever reason, which is what you see all the time, you know, like corrupt politicians, so the corrupt, like I guess Benito Mussolini called it corporativismo, all of these guys. So that is what I think it's necessarily the root of evil, that not necessarily focusing on service.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the, changing subjects completely, what do you think is the meaning of our existence here on Earth?
That's I don't know. I don't know. I guess just to be and to have fun, you know, like to learn. I guess that's like a conversation that would take a couple of hours. I just think that, you know, being one, being everywhere, being everywhen as God, and being in God mode, you know, you're happy. But I mean, coming down as the fragmenting of species and all of that, we get to experience and explore and experiment the universe through every individual soul, to be able to learn more about ourselves So, I mean, you're exploring the universe in any way. There's no wrong way to do it, because ultimately all of that is, a huge experiment to just learn. And I don't know, for like people that have gotten into shamanism and then, they're looking elsewhere and they just see eyes everywhere, everything's being recorded, everything's being seen, everything's being witnessed. So it's just like a recording scientific machine of sorts. It's kind of crazy to think. But yeah, I mean, I honestly, that's as far as I've seen. I don't have a straight answer for that. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, I mean, I mean, you've done so many things. Again, as I said before, I was so impressed about everything that you've done and your spiritual path that, your opinion, might be relevant to our audience. That's why I was asking. So, we love to enrich our audience on Mindalia TV of, people with different perspectives, because we think that everybody has had their own journey, and that journey probably gives them a perspective, a specific perspective on life and what we do as a human species here on Earth. So that's why I was asking. So we always try to help people and to give different perspectives of what happens to us and how can we live better lives. That's it. And thank you. No, thank you for asking. There's a word that obviously stood out very much when we were preparing the interview for today, which is emancipation. But what does that word mean to you, Luis?
Well, liberation, which ultimately it's the idea of moksha, when you get to a point where you're not bound by the chains of the mind. Like you see that, I mean, ultimately it's just a play of consciousness, that you're not necessarily bound to anything. You're here as an awakened person, and when you're doing that, you're basically trying to help others as they walk the path as well. We're all walking each other home. So, like zooming out, like it's not just like, oh, I'm male, 23 years old from Mexico City, or I live in Texas, or United States, or the world. Like I really like the idea of a cosmopolitan. We're citizens of the universe, so you're not just bound to one thing. We're individuals, and in that sense, I will not necessarily treat you differently because you are from wherever you are. You're an individual soul, and that's all I care about. So I'm not necessarily bound to tribalism and all those archaic forms of friction. We're just here, and whatever you are in your path, I will honor you. And if we can help each other, we will. If not, with peace, we will move on. So it seems like a little more useful than just liking those that think like me and hating those that think differently than me. We're gonna fight them or whatever. No. I mean, it's more liberating, easier way of life.
Do you help people to emancipate?
Yes, and we also sometimes hold some shamanic ceremonies, and it can be through that or just coaching or mentorships and all of that. So it's something that takes time, because you cannot just like wake up and say, oh yeah, I know. I mean, it's constant work. Even when you get to a place where you have peeled a lot of the layers of the onions, you still have to work through that, because like, I mean, the nature is, I mean, physics, we cannot deny physics. Entropy is a thing, so it will always go back to take us in. So it's a constant work, but now that it's just a game, so it's a little bit easier. So yes.
Thank you. Where can the audience of Mindalia TV find you online, Luis?
Yes. I am on Facebook, so they can definitely find me there. Luis Fernando Mises. I'm also Instagram, Luis Fernando Mises. I have Emancipated Human page, and I had to restart it because there was a purge that happened on Facebook for pages that were more of challenging the status quo. There was like 800, 900 pages that got deleted. I had 2 or 3 of those. So we're starting over. And yeah, I mean, I'm on Vimeo because my YouTube channel got taken down too. So Vimeo, Facebook, Instagram, all those places.
Why were all those pages taken down?
Well, it's a couple of things. One is, the part of the purge, if you will, from Facebook for people that were against the status quo. And this was actually documented. It's not a conspiracy theory. And the other one, sometimes this message tends to anger some people. And one time, one of my pages actually got hijacked. And I was talking to the hacker, and he was telling me, my boss paid me to take your page down because, whatever reason. And so, yeah, I mean, I've gotten some attacks over this, and I mean, all the time, I get people telling me that they want to kill me and whatever. But it's so funny. Like, I mean, you're just like promoting individual liberties and freedom and all love, and and people get so pissed sometimes. It's funny.
What are your new websites going to look like?
Well, the website is emancipatedhuman.com, and it's still there. And I just went through some work to hopefully make it a little bit more harder to get taken down, which, I mean, if somebody really wanted to, would take it down anyway, right? I've learned that it just takes more time. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I have. And I'm actually going to start doing more of a public speaking venues instead of just private. I do a lot of coaching for private groups all over the United States. We get invited, but there's still a lot of people that follow me on Facebook or, used to on YouTube. I had I don't know, at that point about 1,000 followers on YouTube. And I want to start in Dallas, actually November 17. We're going to have our first public, seminar, and it's going to be 3 hours. And it's actually called Self-Actualization Part 1. And we're going to be talking about self and money incidentally. And then, we talk about relationships with our significant others and our kids. And it goes on, to all the areas of your life, to be able to help people emancipate from that chain in the mind. It's like a little virus, which is not a bad thing. It's just I've learned that, all of these seemingly bad things, they're just opportunities to wake up. And that's all it is. Some people get really, trapped into the actual bad thing that happened, instead of looking at the opportunity of that's the universe putting an alarm for me to wake up. And suddenly you're awake, and suddenly it's just life. It's not the world being against you. You're just, it's making you stronger. It's making you exercise your will. It's making it fun. It's ultimately a form of a video game when you see it that way. It's not just some serious stuff. I mean, yeah, you're going to suffer and all of that stuff. Your pet's going to die and you're going to die and all of that. But whenever you get into that level of awareness, you really know that only your physical form dies, not really you, who you really are. And on that, nothing that you can call yours is you. So that's another interesting thing that, it's another 2.5 hour conversation on that, but it gets more fun as we peel all those layers of the onion.
What do you think people should expect? What do you think people are going to get from your talk on November 17th here in Dallas?
Yeah, well, I hope that they can, ultimately that they can see their own patterns. Once you're able to see your patterns, you're able to move around them. So we're going to talk about beliefs and values and how sometimes those clash, and when they clash, why you don't get what you want and why you get what you don't want, and how we attract people. So we get to see all those things. And once you have the awareness, you're able to focus on that. And so there's one of my mentors taught me that there are 3 verbs: be, do, have. And a lot of people focus on the have first.
I have to have the newest iPhone, I have to have this, I have to whatever. That's not how life works. You'll never be happy if you start here. You have to start with a B. You have to know who you are. You have to be able to feed your mind, feed your soul and your heart. And once you really know who you are, that automatically takes you to doing, because you know your calling. You know what you're supposed to be doing on earth. Once you're doing, having happens automatically too. So it's like electricity. You have to have these in place together to be able to get there. So the main focus is the being, and that, you know, propels you to all of these things.
Excellent. Let's go to some questions from Mirna here. Number one, what is the first mind shift someone with a bad relationship with money should make in order to see abundance in their life?
The first thing that comes to mind is my dad telling me that money treats you the way you treat money. And that's as silly as it may sound, you know, like, you know, putting your dollar bills neatly together and, you know, maybe characterizing them by, you know, value and respecting it, because ultimately you're respecting yourself. That is you. So that's one thing. Like, it's not, oh, whatever, you know, it's just like being mindful about that. Not in the sense of I don't have enough, but more like I need to respect this because it's part of me, and like how I can increase that in a way that, like, how can I provide value for others? So again, don't focus on how I can make more money. Focus on what do I know that I can do that the world needs, that I can contribute. And that's, you know, the very first thing. It could be, and it's funny because you don't have to stay there forever. It evolves. So you can start there and you can, like, it starts moving and life keeps throwing you into these places because you're no longer thinking that you have control over it. You're just kind of floating and you're just aware, and life takes you wherever you're needed and your value keeps increasing. So accepting gifts, accepting love, it's a good thing. Asking for help is a good thing. A lot of times people feel like they can't ask for help because whatever reason. And, you know, the most influential people on earth have tons and tons of help, you know, like, just to think about that for a second. So, I mean, those are like 3 or 4 things that I mentioned.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question. How can we inspire kids to be able to find their calling and make money doing something related to their own gifts?
Helping them explore them, you know, like, and I'll tell you like an example. We are doing unschooling, which is a step further than homeschooling. And the way I like to describe it is we throw books at them and see what sticks. And then whatever sticks, you expand on it. So a little guy, 10 years old, he didn't want to do anything. He just wanted to play video games. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get you coding your own games. So I bought him a program, and he's like, at 8 years old, started coding games that were actually hard. So that's what he wanted to do. Now he can code games. Now he can make money off of that because he's good at it. And that's all he wants to do anyway, you know? So focusing on that. And I think the program only costs like $10 a month. So it's not really even a big investment to do on your kid on something that can give him life skills. And we're not just focusing on, like, school usually is like very 19th century, 20th century, in the sense of like we're teaching them things of the past instead of teaching them things of how the world's going to change. So teaching them things like coding and letting them play Minecraft or stuff like that, because that's actually helping them think in those new ways. And like my daughter, you know, she also asked for, she's like, can I borrow $10? And I'm like, sure, why? She bought a program on the iPhone to edit videos for her friends. So she's making $2 out of that. So, you know, you can see like all these things that are happening because they feel like it. And at the same time, you know, the state doesn't let kids work until they're like 16 or 17. And that's sending a message that says we don't need children. We only need adolescents and adults. So it's sending a bad signal. So letting kids contribute in any way, that's fantastic. And they're not going to be good, like perfect or really good at it, but whenever they have the heart and the intention, let them do it and they'll get better.
Awesome. Thank you. What is evil, the money or the way use it, and again, or the way to use it and the meaning we give to it?
Yeah, I think that's the answer, is how we use it. And there's one thing that I've come to understand. Money augments reality. So if you're kind of a poopy person and you get a bunch of money, you're going to do a lot of poopy stuff. If you're a good person and get a bunch of money, you're going to do even more good things because you're a good person. So ultimately, we go to the being. So focusing on who we are is what's going to make, money is a tool, with my cell phone, I can create a lot of great things, or I can hack something to get something out of it. So is the phone evil? The phone's not evil, it's only a tool, and it doesn't even like have eyes and ears and all of that. Like, I'm the one that's using it. So yes, it's how we view it, how we use it.
Excellent. Next question. Are we ready as a society, to trade with a free form of currency, or do we still need a ruling, controlling organism to monitor the exchange?
We don't need it. It's on its way out, as a matter of fact. The trajectory is towards freedom. So that's what's exciting. All we need is to really be able to educate people and teach them how to use it. So, it's actually overdue.
All right. Thank you. Next question. What do you think is the most remarkable thing about your experience with ayahuasca?
Remarkable. Gosh, I've had so many. I guess what comes to mind is like connecting with interdimensional beings, like really getting a lot of knowledge from them, like them helping me understand and learn. Now, there's one thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So something that's funny. I don't know if it was the fourth or fifth time that I was taking ayahuasca. The shaman said to the new people, this is an experience that lasts 4 or 5 hours, maybe even the rest of your life. And everybody chuckled. And me and my wife looked at each other because we knew that that was right. Like, even if you do it once or twice, like life is just different. So that in itself, like you wake up to a certain sense of Raja Yoga says that everything that changes is not real, and only what's real is what doesn't change. So like seeing that everything changes, you realize that stuff is really not as real as you think. So you're like, yeah, it lasts the rest of your life. Not in a scary way, but it's just awareness.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I think that was the last question of for today. It's been an amazing conversation. There's so many things that honestly we are not used to listen from from our guests. So it's been so enriching, really, so powerful, so powerful, really. Luis, great conversation. Let me tell you that this is your home, that whenever you want to come back and tell us something specific that you think can help our audience, we're open to that. Consider this your home, as I said. And really, thank you very much for those 50 minutes that we have had together today.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and the forum that you have to empower and emancipate a lot of people. So I appreciate the opportunity. And yes, I'll be happy to come back and we can talk and take anything deeper that your audience wants to learn more about.
Excellent. So again, thank you. Thank you very much. And again, this is Angel Rebo with Mindalia TV. Thank you very much for being with us today, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.